It's probably no surprise that our top story for the year is the Albuquerque Police Department and a damning report about its use of force by the Department of Justice. A standoff between a homeless camper in the Sandia foothills that ended in a fatal shooting thrust these problems into a national spotlight. Protests followed and demands for reform. DOJ and the city signed a consent decree recently laying out a path for reform. And Gwyneth, the DA has never pursued charges in the police shooting, but it looks like Ms. Brandenburg might be in this case. Why would that be, do you think?
Well, I mean...
Is the public looking for resolution here sooner than later?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I think the Boyd shooting, ripped a scab off a wound that we hadn't really been paying attention to. But once it was off, then people started to understand, if most people don't have negative interactions with police like that, so they'd be clueless, have no idea that there are so many of these. But for people who had little interactions that put a little seed in the back of their mind, all of a sudden there were all these people who were thinking, I can see how that could happen. But it strains credulity to see so many of these labeled, justified, 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 so there has to be, at some point.
Exactly right. It did dominate the summer, though, didn't it, Russell? It was very interesting. When you think about protests in the street, as I mentioned, but when the news of the decree came down and what the agreement, so to speak, was going to be about, the community reaction to that, what was your sense of it? Was it a satisfaction? Was this going to solve the problem? Is it enough? Is it not enough? That kind of thing.
You know what? It was mixed. There were some, the family members of those shot by APD came out and said, we really, this is a good step. And they were there at the press conference and they said, this is exactly what I wanted. There were some that wanted some more. And you start to see divisions now of folks saying, well, I wasn't at the table for negotiations. It's internal politics, that's going to happen. But I think there's a lot of wait and see. And there's a lot of hope that the federal monitor will have teeth for these reforms. There's also the backlash from the Albuquerque police officers now we're seeing that they weren't consulted before the report came out. They didn't say, well, you didn't give us a chance to show our side what's going on. I think this also highlights a problem that we have not addressed here, is that the police is underfunded. You have folks here who come with a certain amount of education who then don't know if they're going to stay in the field because of their pay. So you have this inequality here in training and so forth. That is we're starting to have those discussions, and I think in community meetings, hopefully that will come up. Yeah,
absolutely. Rachel, with the business community, I have to imagine, again, this is not helpful, something like this, and we're past it now, and that's fine and good. But when this summer was really blowing up, what were you sensing and hearing from the business community about this situation?
It's a huge concern. It's so much of a concern that the Chamber of Commerce formed a task force to look at APD issues and just look at how that is affecting the community. There were reports that people were canceling trips to Albuquerque because they were afraid about what they were seeing on the news. It definitely, I think it was a wake-up call too, as Gwyneth described it, ripping a scab off a wound. When the Boyd shooting story went national and we saw that other people were looking at Albuquerque this way, I think it changed the way we looked at ourselves.
Would you agree with that assessment as well?
Yeah, I think so.
How people look at us?
It was hard to take calls and questions from friends and family who lived elsewhere, and it was hard to say, it's hard to explain how it happened. So I think it was, for those of us not directly impacted by it, embarrassing at the very least.
You sat at this seat for an epic interview not long after this happened with Mayor Berry over here and the two consultants from Cincinnati over here. In that whole dust-up, we've been talking a lot about transparency and stuff. You're the best person to ask this. Transparency issues as far as it went with the consultants and other things. What was your sense of how that all went and how the community responded to that?
Well, I mean, the people in the community who were paying close attention to it were already deeply engaged and rather untrusting and suspicious of how this would all play through. And I think, hiring consultants got Mayor Berry a lot of praise. They came very highly regarded. But, the more information we kind of looked at, the more there was a little head scratching. I mean, everything could always be more transparent. I think leadership is really important in this case, and people are really looking to the mayor and looking to the council and to Chief Eden for a change in philosophy and tone and attitude that is longer than one press conference or one interview.
Absolutely. Russell Contreras, we now have the idea of lapel cams on a national basis after the president's speech following Ferguson. But we've been talking about it here for quite a while, but it kind of came down a bumpy road with former Chief Ray Schultz getting a contract working with a company that supplied them here, and previously mentioned Gordon Eden taking over. Talk about that chief-to-chief swing and how that's all worked out for us.
Well, Chief Gordon's coming in with stuff that Ray Schultz did on his own, forced to do, decided to do, whatever the case is. And so there's an infrastructure that was placed that APD, to its credit, saw something going and started moving in this direction. What I saw, APD has faced a lot of criticism. And recently with the discussions going on in Ferguson, in Cleveland, in New York, and as I was watching talk shows, the other day I heard someone say, well, Ferguson needs to get more advanced like the Albuquerque Police Department. And I thought, whoa, now we've really turned full circle. The fact that they have the lapel cameras, that they're releasing video, that they're, from their perspective, they're transparent. So we should really look at our spot, as difficult as I say, and put it in a national perspective and say all the things that happened from 2010 on led us to this point here. Yeah. If we compare it to other cities, yes, we've moved a long way. We still got a long way to go, but compared to Ferguson, we're actually doing pretty good.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm not sure that's impressive.
The level, the bar has to be low. And in fact, we have to have a discussion about justice in this country, a race, and the growing inequality gap. That's right. That's relevant to all this.
That's right. It was all part of it. Another part of it too, Patrick Malone, was the militarization of local police departments. Another issue that came up during the president's speech following Ferguson, to take another look at that. But Albuquerque is no different. We've got issues in the DOJ report about our SWAT system working out on its own, using military-style tactics that no one's watching over, no one's taking leadership on. Talk about that a little bit and how that whole militarization thing fits into this idea.
Well, there are some concerns about, specifically to New Mexico, even the curriculum of the Law Enforcement Academy, and how they put essentially students who were growing up to be our Albuquerque PD officers, our state police, in a posture, a very defensive posture, a very warlike posture. And then they were very reluctant to share this. In fact, I think the head of the academy told one of our reporters that he would burn it before he would give it to him. Well, he didn't, and we got it, and it reflected a warrior-like mentality, and one that came at a very disconcerting time, because this has all hit the fan this year in 2014, but we got to remember that the DOJ investigation goes back more than 2 years. And so the death of James Boyd happens when we know there's a watchful eye from DOJ on us. And I think there's a police mentality in this country that has us all a little bit afraid, and where that changed is the subject of some debate. Is it that there are more military folks in the police, or is it more of a must survive at all costs kind of thing? The roots of this are subject to debate, but its existence is not. Right. And they're on a very aggressive footing that perhaps this DOJ scrutiny is going to dial back a step. But when you look at the agreement between the city and the DOJ, it says things like, you will do a full and complete assessment of citizen complaints about brutality. You will train your officers in an appropriate way, only to use force when it's appropriate. Well, does it really take the Department of Justice to tell us that? Or are these the basic expectations we should have of the people who carry guns to protect us and have authority to pull us over, or whatever else in this society?
Sure, absolutely. Gwyneth, I've not had the opportunity to work a crime beat. It's never been a part of my career, but I know many reporters who have come away with a new respect for the police whenever they have to work with cops. You know what I mean? There's a lot to it that we don't get to see, that they have to deal with, that we just don't get. Have you been down that road as well and looked at these kind of things?
No, but I know some folks who work in law enforcement, and again, I'm going to talk about what I've been seeing, the zeitgeist on Facebook right now. Sure. There's a certain number of people out there who I'm seeing post things like, the police are always wrong, and they're always, too aggressive, and they're, just out to do all this stuff. And I think, well, that's really not taking into account how hard it really is, and how dangerous and scary it really is. But there's no question that the relationship has changed. The Andy Griffith Show wasn't a totally accurate portrayal of policing in America in the 1950s, but in some ways it really was, and it is absolutely unrecognizable to us today. And it's partially because of the things that Patrick mentioned, and partially because of the drug war and the increased funding coming from the federal government to local departments for that, the military surplus that they're sending down down there. An incredible lack of oversight of SWAT teams and special forces and police departments in general, because mayoral leadership changes over and they say, well, I just hope this keeps happening over here. And also on our own parts, because at a certain level, inequality means that some people, and we saw this in Ferguson, some people just have many more regular interactions with the police than the rest of us do, because our tail lights aren't cracked and we're not driving through certain neighborhoods, and maybe we don't look like the kind of person that they're pulling over more often, or who looks dangerous or like someone they've got an APB out on. So I think for all these reasons, the militarization is going to be something we keep looking at and keep trying to figure out how to turn around.
Exactly right. Another thing that popped up this year, Russell Contreras, was the Mary Hahn case, or jumped up again this year, but not much resolution for folks who really want to see something happening with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, and you came with the narrative that something's going on to the police department. They're hiding something.
Right.
This was a critic, that kind of thing. And it fitted with the narrative also with the families finally coming together and organizing forcefully. They've always been organized.
That's right.
And when you talk to someone like the Torres family and you listen to them and find out they're good people, they raised their child and the child had a certain situation and it had this interaction. You couple that with the Mary Hahn case, you couple it with the civil disobedience at City Hall. You were left with, we're falling apart. Something's going on.
Right. Interesting.